friends, welcome back to my channel, Booked with Juby. In today's video, we are going to go over all the books that I read or listened to in March 2026. Now, this month was filled with quite an array of books. I had some really emotional small town dramas, like intense sport comebacks, addictive thrillers, and then some really feel-good romances that I listened to on audio and I was very, very happy with, and I can't wait to tell you all about. So let's get to it. Okay, so the first book I read in March was Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. Now this is the second book in the Beartown series. We also have the third book here, which is The Winners, which I have not started and probably won't start until it's cold again because I live in Canada and it's been so chilly, and I don't know why, but this is such a cold season book. So we'll probably hit this up later in 2026 when it's a little chillier. Plus, look how thick this is compared to these two. So I need to prepare myself mentally for that because Fredrik Backman, excellent writer, very good. I just truly, he really has a way with words, and I do know that this is translated from his native tongue to English, but it's such an intense story, and the way he writes it is through really multiple POVs. It's constantly changing, so it's not just one chapter is one POV, the next is another. It's paragraph by paragraph, it could flip to somebody else, and that's a really interesting way to read the book and read the story, and it really creates the town, Beartown. It really creates that atmosphere in the community by telling the story that way. I'm not going to go over too much about Us Against You because it is the second book in the series. I really have enjoyed both of them. Again, this was my first time reading Fredrik Backman, and I definitely will pick up more by him because I genuinely love the writing so much. And this one is really quite a good follow-up from Beartown. Beartown itself is a very, very intense, emotional book, and it deals with some pretty serious subjects. And this one basically follows the aftermath of that. The hockey team is about to be disbanded, and the identity of the whole town is it's in question because Beartown, what is Beartown without hockey? And it's interesting to see how everybody grows and develops from that first book to the second book. I'm very interested to see what The Winners is all about because who knows where the book's going to be taken. But so far, really enjoying the series. It is one that I feel like you don't have to read back to back to back. You could pick them up months later and still remember and feel like you're in the series. I also purposely did that because, again, the writing is quite intense and it is an intense subject matter, so sometimes you need to lighten the mood a little bit afterwards and have some time to reflect from there. Okay, so the next book that I read in March was Carrie Soto is So Back by Jenkins Reid. And if you are new here, then you don't know how obsessed I am with Jenkins Reid. If you're not new, then you already know that I love this author so much. Everything she writes, I devour. I've both listened to them on audio and I've read them, and truly I've enjoyed every single book, some more than others, of course, but every single one has been great. And let me tell you, this one was a 5-star read for me. I ate this up. It was so good, and I regret putting it off. I've owned this book for probably a year or so, and I don't know why. I just kept putting it off, and I regret it. This book is so good. I enjoyed the tension she builds in it. I enjoyed the character development. I enjoyed her writing. I just enjoyed the story. I enjoyed everything about it. Basically, in Carrie Soto is Back, you are following Carrie Soto, who is basically the best tennis star player ever. Record-breaking legend status. But her title is about to be taken away from her years after her retirement. So she decides at the big old age of 37 to reclaim it. It's all about ambition, sacrifice, and what it actually costs to be the best. It's also a beautiful story about father and daughter. It's a story about, finding what life is really about and what's the important things and pushing yourself to the limits. Even if you don't like sports, I would recommend reading this book because it's not just about the sport. The overlaying message is, okay, yeah, she's this incredible, amazing athlete, right? But the underlying message is just like her character development and who she is. She's known as the B, okay? Like the B in tennis. And I mean the B. And, she sort of she's almost a character you're not supposed to root for. But when you understand her and start seeing it from her POV and what she's trying to accomplish, you start being like, you go, girl. And also, fun little fact, Carrie Soto is mentioned in the book Malibu Rising, which is also an excellent, excellent book by Jenkins Reid, and totally recommend reading that one first. Not that you have to read that one first to read this one, because truthfully, they have nothing to do with each other. It's just like little Easter eggs. And it also this book also redeems Carrie a little bit because she wasn't so great in Malibu Rising. So with that being said, I think you all should pick up this book. And also, fun little fact, I gave this book to my little sister to read, and she's currently reading it. She's almost done. I think she's she's on page 325, and she came and told me how much she was enjoying it. And I'm so, so happy that she is. Also, this is her bookmark. It's a little Pokemon card. I think that's really cute that that's her bookmark. She's just adorable. So I'm really glad that she's reading this, and I hope you read it too. Okay, so next book we're gonna talk about is one that I'm late to the game, okay? I'm late. I'm sorry. It took me a while to get here, but I am glad that I am here now because I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And this is a super, super fun YA thriller mystery that the hype, I think, is well-deserved. I mean, the character, Pip, she's so cute and quirky, and she basically is this high school student. She's around 18 years old, and she is basically doing this last final project, and she decides to do it on a closed murder that was in her town. That was a girl had gone missing, and everyone thought it was the boyfriend that killed her. But she never thought it was the boyfriend. And so she kind of reopens the investigation herself and starts kind of diving headfirst into solving this murder, even though she's not really supposed to be solving the murder. She's only supposed to really be talking about the murder, but she's finding herself in very odd and difficult situations as she tries to figure out what happened and where is this girl and did she really disappear? Is she dead? We don't know. And it was just so fun. She's such a fun little character. It was like one of those popcorn books where you're just like, I was so obsessed with it, and I felt like I flew through it because I just had such a good time with it. Also very easy read, which sometimes is a nice vibe, especially after something like when I was reading Us Against You, which is a very heavy read. This was just like a nice little book to throw in there that was just like a fun time. And I know she has a couple more books in the series, so I'd definitely be checking that out. And I also know that she has the Netflix show, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, so I definitely want to watch that at some point and compare notes and just see how much I like it then. Okay, so the last physical book I read in March was Apples Never Fall by Liane Moriarty. Now, I usually read 5 or 6 books a month, but I had a really busy end of March, and I had a lot to do, and I just didn't have enough time to read. And also, and it's not the book's fault, I just couldn't get myself to pick this up. But the odd thing is, when I did read it, I really enjoyed it and was really immersed in it. I just for some reason couldn't get myself to pick it up. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if it was a me problem, it was a book problem, or a little bit of both. Also, was just really busy at the end of March, so it made it a little bit difficult to get in some, decent reading time. But yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. And this book, I like it. Okay, I do like it, and that's the funny thing. Even though I didn't want to pick it up, I did enjoy it. It's a messy family drama in all the best ways. It centers around the Delaney family. They're former tennis stars turned parents, and I know I have a tennis theme going on. I guess I didn't mean to do 2 tennis books, but here we are. But they seemingly have these perfect life, and it starts to unravel when this mysterious house guest shows up, and suddenly the wife goes missing, and their children don't know what's happened. They are very confused. It's did something happen, or did someone do something? Was it the dad that did it? There's just so many unanswered questions, and a very dysfunctional family, and all of them have their own quirks. There's 4 different children, 2 girls, 2 boys, and each of them have their own kind of disastrous lives going on. And really a very interesting book. And I kept thinking the whole time, wow, this would make a really good limited series, and apparently it is. I think it's on, in Canada anyway, I think it's on Prime Video, so I'm going to check it out because my sister let me know. She saw I was reading the book and she goes, hey, I watched that TV show, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense, because it really did read like a limited series, and I thought this would make such a good show. So I'm definitely going to check that out and see how the book compares to it. And I think overall I'm gonna give this like a 3.5. It wasn't terrible, and again, nothing wrong with it. I just, for some reason, I had a hard time picking it up, and it could just be a me issue, but it was an interesting read, and I definitely enjoyed it. If you're into that kind of like unreliable narration, and you don't really know what's happening until it's happening, I think this one definitely would be for you. Okay, let's talk audiobooks that I listened to in March. So I only got through 2 this month, but both of them were excellent, and they were both big surprises because I knew nothing about the books going into them, and I just basically saw them online and kind of was like, oh, need an audiobook to listen to, so let's try these ones, and they were available. The first one I'm going to talk about is Swept Away by Beth O'Leary. I saw this Instagram reel, and I wish I knew the library that put it out, but it was a library, and they were going around interviewing all the employees, being like, what's an audiobook that you love? And the one girl had said Swept Away by Beth O'Leary, and it kind of caught my eye, and I thought, okay. So I checked my Libby app, it was on there, and I was like, great, I need something to listen to, let me put it on there. I loved this book in such a weird way, and it was so odd because the premise is wild. So basically, 2 strangers have a one-night stand and then wake up stranded in the middle of the sea because they're both drifted away overnight. And it's based in England, so it's like, think cold weather, cold stormy seas, and like it's so random. And when they both wake up, they both think that they own this houseboat that they went back to, so they kind of are each blaming each other for why it didn't get tied up correctly in the first place. And now they're kind of stuck together trying to survive with very limited supplies, and of course they don't know each other, and it's it was like a one-night shrunken stand, and of course feelings start to develop, and it's that forced proximity romance meets survival story in the best way. And I was so constantly curious of what's going to happen next, and there were some very intense moments that were very adventurous, and I was like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And then there was a little twist at the end that I really did not see coming, and genuinely had such a good time with this book. The audio was interesting because it was obviously English actors. It was a guy and a girl because it did 2 POVs, but I really enjoyed it so much, and I didn't know I was gonna like it that much, and so happy that I randomly was scrolling one day and saw that come up on my For You page. All right, so Frankie decided to join us for the last part of this video. But the last audiobook that I listened to in March was The Summer of Yes by Courtney Walsh. I went into this book completely blind. I just saw it randomly on social media, and I just needed a new book to start, and I decided, let's do this one. And let me tell you, it's like the ultimate feel-good life reset story. And this felt so needed for me at this point in my life. It just was like a fun, low stakes, low spiced romance that was just, and not just a romance. It also was about, you know, finding yourself and not letting yourself get stuck in this rut where you're always just staying in, not doing anything. It's literally the summer of yes, where you have to say yes to everything. So our story follows Kelsey and Georgia. Kelsey is this, 32-year-old who's a workaholic, and she has a near-death experience that lands her in the hospital, and she ends up meeting this really amazing business tycoon, Georgia. And she basically, after this life-altering experience, decides like she needs to make changes in her life, and she needs to start doing more, and she doesn't necessarily want to end up like Georgia, who is, nobody's visiting her. This is a 70-year-old woman who has a lot of health issues, and even though she's so successful in life, she doesn't have, the other parts of life. And so she decides that she's going to have a summer of yes, and she's going to make Georgia do it with her. And they kind of become this odd friendship between the two. And Georgia's this like uptight, like business woman, like brilliant. And she has, she has a son that she hasn't seen in 20 years. And Kelsey decides, I'm going to get these two back together, and I'm going to try and fix this. She almost meddles. And the two of them end up going on this big trip together, and it's really funny. Like, I laughed out loud so many times. It's very sweet. It's interesting storyline with it not just being about romance, but it really was about the friendship that these women developed, even though, there's such an age gap between them, and just being able to learn from other people, whether you're the older person learning from a younger person or the younger person learning from an older person. It's just interesting that we can really, like, sometimes we forget that everyone can teach you something, and you can learn from everybody you meet, know something that you don't know. And I think that's such an interesting concept that we kind of forget about. It's a second chance book. It's about stepping outside of your comfort zone and like actually living. So I just really enjoyed the uplifting part of it. And also, like, I think I did listen to this on audio. I feel like I would have loved to read this book. It feels like a beach read to me. So I think either audio or physical would have been great for this book. And I think I rated it like a 4 out of 5. It was just like a great time. And I definitely will be checking out more Courtney Walsh. Okay, so that's everything that I read in March 2026. I'm hoping April to pick up the pace a little bit with the books, because I don't know what happened there in March, but again, it was just a little busy, but that's life for you. And sometimes we don't have time to do all the things that we love to do, but I hope that April, ends up being a really good reading month for me, especially as the weather gets better here for us, and maybe go outside and read a little bit. That'd be so nice. And as always, I love you guys so much. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It goes such a long way for me. And Frankie and I love you so much. Bye.